The Business and Intellectual Property Authority, that's BIPA, will host an engaging stakeholder conference on the draft Copyright and Elated Rights Bill on the 18th of November 2021. Mr. Onesmus Joseph, the Senior Intellectual Property Officer at BIPA, now joins us with more details on this. Good morning, sir, and welcome to Good Morning Namibia.
Good morning to you and good morning to the listener.
Help us understand what the current bill entails, sir.
Thank you very much. Business and Intellectual Property Authority of Namibia, with its mandate to register intellectual property, has actually impacted upon a process of drafting a new legal framework on copyright. Has started way back 2018, and the new copyright and related right, it's actually aimed to repeal the current Copyright and Neighboring Right Act 6 of 1994. And this current draft that we are talking about, it's made up of new changes, new proposals that aim to address certain issues that pertain to digital era. Given that the current act has been enacted 25 years back, it can no longer address the needs of the creators, of the authors in a digital environment. Hence, BIPA, with the consultation of stakeholders, look into it, and now as an office, we drafted a legal framework to address some of those gaps in the creative industry.
Are you able to elaborate on those gaps that necessitated relooking the Act as it stands?
Absolutely, Denver. Some of the gaps that we identify is to say that the current Copyright Act does not make provisions for protections of our folklore or traditional knowledge. It also doesn't make provisions for protections of copyright content in the digital environment. And we also identify that the current Copyright Act has minimal standard when it comes to enforcement of intellectual property. It also has no broader mandate when it comes to collective management organization. Hence, with the consultation of stakeholders, we look into it and say we have to draft and come up with a legal framework, a responsive legal framework that will serve a purpose and promote our creators, our authors, for them actually to deduce benefit from their hard work.
Now, we do know that BIPA places a premium on stakeholder engagement. Help us understand to what extent the consultations with stakeholders yielded the necessary results.
Thanks, Denver. As I indicated earlier, our consultation started way back 2018 and throughout to 2019. And 2020 to 2021, we also held various stakeholders across the country, whereby a number of people from different sectors, be it universities, libraries, museums, they really come out in big numbers, not to mention about the musicians, not to talk about the authors, really airing their views and giving their inputs as to how can we have a responsive legal framework that serve the purpose as to how we can also improve on the Copyright and Neighboring Right Act that we have. I can confidently say that the inputs from stakeholders really helps us to build on, and the bill that we are talking about today, the Copyright and Related Right Draft Bill, I can confidently say that much 80% is actually stakeholders' inputs.
Very well. So why is it so critical to involve stakeholders in this process?
That's a very good question, Dave. Surely they are the subject. I mean, these are the peoples outside there that they are creating. They are the ones that are using the copyright content. And it's very important. As an organization, we value our stakeholder relationship. Unfortunately, in the 21st century, we can't do it without them. And we find it out to say, to value them, we should seek their inputs, much importantly for us to improve on the legal framework. At the end of the day, it's them who are concerned. At the end of the day, they are the one who are going to use the particular legal framework.
Now, being cognizant of the stakeholders involved and how critical engagement with them is, which are the key sectors that the proposed legislation is dealing with and that the Act will deal with?
Perfectly. Copyright and Neighboring Right Draft Bill mostly touch all sectors. Everybody is actually concerned when it comes to this particular law. Not to mention of the universities, the museums, the libraries, the broadcasters institutions like NBCs, not to talk about the musicians, the authors, the manufacturers. Simply because the new draft bill, we are proposing issues that pertaining to manufacturing of devices that necessitate infringement of copyright content. Hence, broadly, I can say it touch all the sectors, and it's really vital for stakeholders across the board to be involved and give their inputs.
In pursuit of being responsive, to what extent is the proposed legislation taking care of the needs in terms of Indigenous knowledge?
Thanks very much. As I indicated earlier, that the current copyright and neighboring right does not make any provision for protections of expressions of folklores. The draft bill really come out clearly to say the expressions of folklores, number one, it will be vested in the state and it will be protected. The main reason is to exclude those people from that particular communities, to take away our expressions of folklores and exploit it without benefiting the concerned community or individuals. And we are saying within the current draft, number one, it brought in an exception. It come with a progressive, to say, it introduced a provision with an exception that never happened before in copyright context. And as I can indicate that we propose the expressions of folklores, traditional products to be actually be protected, and our people cannot no longer be exploited in that regard.
Mr. Joseph, before we let you go, your final remarks this morning, please.
Thank you very much. Yes, BIPA has actually drafted the copyright and related right draft bill with inputs of stakeholders. We are now going to conduct the last round of inputs from stakeholders. As indicated, it will be 18th of November, and we are really calling out our stakeholders, musicians, authors, CMOs, libraries and universities to download the draft from our website and all our social media to go through and see how better we can actually improve. We have a month range period as we go forward to the 18th of November when we meet up on the national conference. At least they'll be able to say, can we change here? Can we give further their inputs? The main important aspect is to say, to improve our legal framework and serve the purpose of our people.
Thank you, Nene.
Thanks very much for having me.
There you have it, Mr. Onesmus Joseph, Senior Intellectual Property Officer at BIPA, talking to us about the latest proposed legislation on their table.